Mary Hunt here for Water. This is our water meditation with Jeanne Christensen. Decisions, decisions, decisions. I love the title. It's Monday, October the 7th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. in the U.S., which makes it tomorrow, Tuesday, October 8th, 2024 at what, 8:30 in the morning in Melbourne?
10:30.
10:30. Oh, okay, I've got my daylight savings times not figured in there. In any case, we're delighted to have all of you with us, and I'm particularly delighted that Jeanne would be so kind as to lead once again, which is really very, very nice, having just done it in July. In July, she presented on human trafficking using a reflection entitled "God is Everywhere." Can you mute yourselves, please, because I'm getting feedback. Just mute your phones. That will help. I think that's better. She presented recently in July on human trafficking using a reflection entitled "God is Everywhere, Takes All Forms, Has Many Names, and is in All of Us." It was a moving and challenging theme, which we had a really important discussion, I think, that night and have continued both in the Water Office and elsewhere to have that kind of conversation. So I thank you, Jeanne, for that. I want to present a special welcome tonight, not only to the plethora of Sisters of Mercy who are with us. We're always delighted to have you. The week after your feast day, you're all back in where you belong after the celebrations. And we at Water are always happy to be with you and have great regard and respect for the work that you do. I want to give a special welcome to my two new colleagues. We have two new colleagues at Water this fall. Magdalena Muller is, let's see where she is. There she is with her headset on, from the Thuringia area or region of central Germany. And Wed, where is Wed? I saw her coming in. Maybe she hasn't gotten, there she is. There's Wed. Hey, Wed. Welcome. Wed Naji from Bonn. They're both from Germany. And Magdalena has graduated from college and Wed has graduated from high school. They're with us for a year through the German peace group Irene and the Brethren Voluntary Service Program. So they just arrived early October and will be with us through the end of the water year, which is the end of July. So a warm welcome to both of them. We also have with us tonight Brooke Andrews, who will handle the IT before she leaves Water for her first post-college job in the nonprofit and philanthropic sector. So many thanks to you, Brooke, for both a summer internship a year ago and then a year and a summer of part-time staff work. And now she's training in the new interns. And it's just the greatest part of Water, of course, the product of Water, I always say, are the interns. And they do wonderful things with their lives. And Water women are simply the best. And so we have these three with us tonight, who I'm sure will go on to great and glorious things. So welcome to the new ones. And Brooke, I know you're going to be leaving us at the end of the month to take your first post-college job. Brooke just graduated from the University of Maryland, English major, and she'll be taking her first job in the real world, as it were. Water cannot be considered the real world because it's too much fun, but it will be just great to see what you do, and of course to know that you're a phone call away. What we have as a habit at Water is hiring some of our former staff and part-time staff people. We hire them part-time to do pieces of the work. So one of them, former intern, does the newsletter, one does the website, and at the moment Brooke is doing training for our two new people, and I know there'll be many roles that she'll have coming up. So welcome to Water. Last month in this space, Cheryl Nichols favored us with a reflection on the work of Sister Mary Lou Konecki and Roy Khan called Between Two Souls, a book that Mary Lou edited some years ago. And it included wonderful poetry and Cheryl's own appreciation of Mary Lou that was shared by all of us. And the notes for that, along with the video, can be found on our website at www.waterwomensalliance.org. And you're welcome to use any of the materials there that you find. The poetry is there in the notes, and the video of Cheryl's presentation is there, and information on how to buy Mary Lou's new book, which has just come out, is also on there. Some of you may know Mary Lou Konecki was a Erie Benedictine sister who died in the last couple of years, and a great peace worker. Oh, here's the new book. Yeah, Every Day Sacred. Cheryl's holding it up. Um, and it's just Mary Lou's just was a uh, marvelous spiritual person with her feet planted firmly in the ground. And many of us had great admiration for her and really liked her work. So Cheryl did a wonderful job bringing that to us the last time. So tonight, before we get to Jeanne Christensen and decisions, we'll begin as we always do at Water with the Land Acknowledgement. We at Water are on Indigenous land in Silver Spring, Maryland. This is the traditional and contemporary land of the Piscataway and Anacostan peoples. We acknowledge the trauma and injustice toward Indigenous people and other people of color that is so deep in American culture and history. We join in efforts to eradicate it, and we commit to reparations for the genocide involved. Water's work is aimed to bring about social justice. So I invite you, just as we gather ourselves tonight, to consider the Native people on whose land you sit. Feel free to put their names in the chat if you wish. We'll take just a moment to remember these persons. Thank you very much. I want to just mention our format tonight for those who are new to this very simple experience of meditation. We have a presenter, and that's Jeanne tonight, who will offer something, kind of a brief comment, 7 or 8 minutes, to spark our contemplation. And then we spend 22 minutes of silence together, which is enough time, I hope, to get into a meditative state. Feel free to turn off your camera at that time. There'll be a visual on the screen if you like something to look at while you meditate. And then we'll open the floor for conversation with further instructions to be given at that time. We'll send out, as I said earlier, a link to the video and any notes next week so that you can review this or share it with others. Now, there are many styles of meditation. You know what is best for you. You know what gets you into a contemplative space, whether it's breathing and reflecting on your breathing, whether it's a word or phrase acting as a mantra. Do whatever works for you. The key to this approach to meditation is that we do it together. What Nancy Sylvester, who pioneered this approach, calls communal contemplation and dialogue. And by the way, I'll speak at the end about this. Nancy's going to be with us day after tomorrow with her new book. And that's going to be great. So I invite you to be part of that with us. So what will happen, I will now introduce Jeanne, and then Jeanne will make her remarks. And following her remarks, I will ring the gong, and it sounds like this. Can you hear it? No. Okay. Sometimes it likes to ring and sometimes it doesn't. In any case, I will ring the gong, which I hope you can hear. And if you can't, I will simply say we will commence. Still not? It's that music setting I have to shift. In any case, I invite you now to mute your phone until it's time to share after the meditation. When Jeanne Christensen led us in July, I said that I met her through the Sisters of Mercy when I was privileged to be part of their sexual orientation and gender identity committee. Jeanne lives in Omaha, Nebraska, after working for many years in Kansas City. She recently lost her best friend there, so I begin tonight, Jeanne, with a sincere condolence to you, and even deeper appreciation to you for stepping forward tonight after such a recent and significant loss. We're so sorry for your loss. According to Jeanne's bio, since 2011, she has served as the justice advocate against human trafficking for the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas. She's a founding and board member of the Alliance to End Human Trafficking, founded and supported by U.S. Catholic Sisters. Jeanne serves on their advocacy working group and development planning committee. She's a member of the board of directors of the College of St. Mary in Omaha, Nebraska, and she's a member of the academic and student affairs and strategic planning committees there. Jeanne and her Mercy colleagues are keenly interested, as many of us are, in the upcoming election. We at Water, of course, as a 501c3 nonprofit, can't express partisan views in our work, but we can and do invite people to vote. In fact, we're part of the Women Church Convergence, which has sent out this bumper sticker, Women, Vote Your Truth. So without any partisan activity necessary, I invite you on this month before the election, literally a month from tonight, we'll be on the eve, to think about decisions. Thank you, Jeanne, for moving us into the last 30 days before the election with wisdom on the many decisions we face in our lives, not least of which is voting. Thank you, Jeanne.
We're good. It's October 2024. Those of us in the United States are faced with upcoming elections at local, state, and federal levels. How do we decide who is best candidate to vote for? Mulling this over, I thought two things. First, not everyone participating in this meditation lives in the United States and are not faced with a contentious election. And second, voting decisions are not so different from other value-based, important, or major decisions, especially in my life within the Sisters of Mercy community. Our beloved Teresa Kane is a wonderful example of one of my rooted in mercy values, to speak the truth in love. I was personally called to do this in 2006, when the newly installed bishop of our diocese failed to respond appropriately to a current clergy sexual abuse case. Having served as the victim's advocate for 4 years under our previous bishop, I had to speak the truth in love. I had to call for him to be held accountable. My mercy community supported me, and I was able to speak out on local television, the local newspaper, and the National Catholic Reporter. It was a challenge to speak charitably when my personal opinion was anything but charitable. So take a few seconds to think about examples that you have of making decisions that called you to speak the truth in love. Another important value for me is acting out of my own personal integrity. 3 examples come to mind. The first is, unfortunately, also caused by the 2006 newly installed bishop in our diocese. I had been director of the Diocesan Peace and Justice Office for 6 years when he decided he knew better than my staff and I what could be offered in classes, committees, meetings, or in our column in the diocesan newspaper. He reduced staff by cutting budgets, censoring articles, refusing to approve speakers, and recommending very conservative speakers who did not understand social justice. He reassigned our priest staff member, and the associate director was forced to resign. I could not continue to direct the office and resigned to avoid violating my own integrity. Yes, we 3 regretted leaving because it left many persons who appreciated and depended on our ministry without our resources. The second decision based on my integrity was discernment for mercy community leadership. Twice I felt called to remain in discernment, was elected once and not elected the second time. The third time, I chose to withdraw because my integrity challenged me to choose between leadership and fulfilling my love responsibility for my longtime friend living with Alzheimer's. Third example was my own coming out to family, friends in my Mercy community. Many of you know this call to speaking and acting out of your personal integrity. The freedom and fullness of life gained from doing so are gifts to be lived fully. So what are the values that most inform your decision-making? A brief pause to think about that. Other values that are essential to my decision-making include protecting the life, dignity, and rights of the human person, protecting the poor and vulnerable, advancing the common good, and ensuring equality for all persons. These other values directly inform my ministry as a Sister of Mercy and are a way of living out our fourth vow of service to the poor, sick, and ignorant. For example, they inform my decisions as a member of the boards of directors at our university in Omaha and the Alliance to End Human Trafficking, and also as a member of various committees on which I serve. They will definitely influence my decision in the upcoming U.S. congressional and presidential elections. Understanding that every candidate is a politician who may or may not keep his or her promises, I need these values to examine each political candidate. They are essential to my decision on which candidate I will support. As people of faith, our decisions must be as inclusive as possible. We are called to remember that in a global culture driven by excessive individualism, a person is not only sacred, but also social. How society is organized, economics, politics, law, policy, directly affects human dignity and the capacity of individuals to grow in community. We recognize the role of government and other institutions is to protect human life and dignity, promote the common good, and recognize the equality of persons. To protect human dignity and achieve healthy communities, human rights must be protected and responsibilities met. This means every person has a fundamental right to life and a right to those things required for human decency. Corresponding to these rights are duties and responsibilities to one another, to families, to the larger society at every level within one's country and beyond. People of faith know their basic moral test of how society is functioning is how its most vulnerable members are faring. In a society marred by deepening divisions, whether economic, racial, religious, ideological, or other, it is imperative to support the common good, put the needs of the poor and vulnerable first, and recognize the equality of persons. All people have a right to participate in the economic, political, and cultural life of society. It is wrong for a person or group to be excluded unfairly or to be unable to participate. It is unjust for a person or group to be treated as if they are non-members of the human race, as if they do not count as human beings. We must promote the close relationship between peace and justice. It involves mutual respect, confidence between peoples and nations, and is dependent on the right order among human beings. It depends on our commitment to the common good and equality of all persons.
Thank you, Jeanne Christensen, for laying out the contours of some of the elements that go into decisions. And now we turn to our time of collective silence. I will ring the gong, and I'll ring it again when we come back. Thanks again to Jeanne Christensen, and welcome back. I hope your period of meditation was fruitful and enjoyable. The topic certainly was one that invited many, many approaches and considerations. We now open the floor for conversation. At the bottom of your screen, there's a reaction button, and if you press on that, you will see that the raise hand function is there, and you can raise your hand as I have just done, and then you can lower your hand as I have just done. So if you'd like to make a comment, please feel free to raise your hand, and if the technology thwarts you, just raise your hand. The floor is open. Please state your name and maybe your location, and keep your comments brief because we're a number of people tonight. We always finish at the bottom of the hour, so we'll finish at 8:30 Eastern Time. The Zoom will be on for those who wish to continue conversation after that, but we'll conclude at least by 8:30. The floor is open. Coralie Ling from Australia. Go ahead.
Right. I'd like to thank Jeanne for the values in making decisions. I think it's important to be reminded. And while you have a major election coming up, I have local elections coming up this week. So it's good to have the reminder about what we're thinking about as we choose our candidates. Thank you.
Thanks, Coralie.
I'll say that tonight was a reminder to me that choosing to abstain or not make a decision is a decision in itself, so that it's ultimately unavoidable with things like the election, and no one can, escape politics. Even if you don't choose to participate, it still affects you, and it's good to remind each other, even those that seem like they're a world away from us. Conflicts, across the world still have resounding effects that reach over here. So it's important to decide to participate in um, fighting against the injustices of the world.
Thanks, Brooke. Carrie, go ahead.
I just thank you so much. And if I get emotional, please forgive me. Blame it on the Category 5 hurricane that's soon to come upon our shores. All my family members have moved to higher ground on the West Coast. But I just need to lift up, just seeing all of the Sisters of Mercy here to understand that you all raised my spouse, my husband, David Roach. We've been married and have 5 children. We've been married for 45 years, but they were the 7 Roach children were raised by the Sisters of Mercy in Hialeah, Florida. And David, like almost every day, says it's the Sisters of Mercy that gave us, our family, the life that we've had. And as crazy as it is, but we actually chose to have those 5 children go through Catholic education, grades pre-K through 8th, never Catholic high school, because that's a whole nother thing. But we chose that. It was a huge sacrifice. We did not get family vacations or any kind of vehicles that were running most of the time. But we chose that because of the Sisters of Mercy and what David and his siblings received from that kind of education. And it was a huge decision. And I just want to thank you for giving us the courage to continue and making those. It makes no sense. I mean, it makes no logical sense whatsoever. But we feel like we have your backing. And I just thank all of you who are with us tonight. And I will forever thank Water for providing this to our family, our Roach family. Thank you.
Thank you,
Carrie,
Carrie.
that's lovely. It's also somewhat humbling. We teachers, educators never know what impact we make in the lives of people. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. And please note that our best energies and prayers are focused on you and all the people in harm's way in this extraordinary hurricane season, with the Category 5 barreling in on Florida today, tomorrow, Thursday. It's going to be quite a rough ride. So we'll, as you deal with it, please know that other friends around the world are thinking of you and accompanying you at that point. Other comments? Cheryl Nichols, go ahead.
Jeanne, thank you so much for sharing those really difficult and personal decisions. And it's, especially when you're working in the wider church, I think we as women face decisions all the time. But it helped me to reflect on a much simpler level or closer level on a parish basis, the situations in which people who wield authority, the impact that they have, and how difficult it is at times to stand up to that. And I just really admire you for your courage in really pursuing justice and maintaining your own integrity in those difficult decisions that you had to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Please go ahead. Wed?
Yeah, so I also really thought about Brooke's thought as well, like not making a decision is a decision that maybe we don't will that we might not suffer, that we will might not suffer under, but maybe like people with less privileges and people who are not so educated to vote, or I don't know, it's people that come from less privileges and that have less privileges. So really thinking about the impact that a decision might have on people with less privileges is important, and maybe like changing your perspective is important, because you don't make a choice or make a decision only for yourself, but maybe like for many people, especially like looking at the elections right now.
Thanks, Wed. Yeah, I had a similar thought about that, Jeanne, your comments made me think about how do we assess when we can afford our integrity, and at the times when we literally can't afford it. You know, a lot of people in that situation who would love to make a different decision, but they'll lose the job or lose the kids or lose the house, or you know, so the Wed it touches on it as well, the extent to which privilege does not only require a certain responsibility to do things, but also lifts up the fact that some people simply can't afford um, their integrity. You know, what are the points at which where do we come up against the limit of who can afford their integrity? I think, for example, about coming out. You know, I mean, I came out 4 decades ago, 5 decades ago, but as a white woman, it wasn't. It certainly had nothing to do with what it was like to be a black woman to come out in the 1970s, and so I couldn't expect that of my black women sisters, that they would do what I did, and so I have a lot of your meditation occasioned for me a lot of reflection on privilege and decisions. So thank you.
Well, and we experienced what you're referencing at the diocese. I could afford to lose my job.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of others who were under some of very similar kinds of things couldn't. They had families to support, or, you know, whatever. So yeah, absolutely. That's true.
The floor is open. Yes, Virginia Day.
Thank you. I do thank you for your integrity, Jeanne. What I really appreciated, in addition, is the graphic, and you know, I picked out a few words. You know, productivity, why, where, when, how. Because I'm making a decision about future living. And I have to say that the timing of, you know, my choices, and maybe this is true of others, is very much or the fear or uncertainty that I experienced making this decision, I think is particularly the fear particularly strong right now in light of the elections. You know, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, making this decision, but I'm wondering, and maybe this is will enable me to have sensitivity around other persons' life decisions right now. Because of the unknown future, it's particularly for me, the unknown future globally, nationally, internationally, and how it will affect my life. It's maybe sounds a little selfish, but I know I'm in touch with that. The impact of this election for the world and individually. So I thank you for just raising questions about past decisions, but I'm aware of this one at this time in our history. So thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Anyone else before we close our session tonight? Yes.
It's Jeanne
Yes.
Ward. The graphic that was there during the meditation, the word that jumped out at me was what, W-H-A-T. And how many people are saying, so what, about this election? Either so what, the person I want isn't going to win, or so what, it's not going to make any difference. Neither of the choices are good. So I'm praying that people will not say so what, but will really look at the ramifications of what their decision is and then vote their conscience, not what other people are saying they should.
Thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, Brooke, you're the person who chose the graphic, aren't you?
I
No?
don't think
Jeanne
I can
did?
take credit for this one, actually, but
Who
maybe
chose the graphic?
Diane.
Jeanne, did you?
I found it on the internet
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was Brooke. Okay, great.
and I
Well,
sent it off and it ended up in Brooke's hands.
there you go. Okay. Teamwork here. I always tell people
You bet.
feminist theology is a team sport.
Mhm.
I'm going to take the opportunity to close our conversation for right now and make the announcements. And then if people want to stay on and chat or raise other questions, please feel free to do so. But I always like to honor the time so that people know what the container is for our experience together. Again, I want to thank Jeanne Christensen for raising a lot of very interesting and important questions, and all of you for the comments that you've made that have for me at least, inspirited other questions. So it really is a productive hour. I want to mention that I mentioned this earlier, but I want to say in a little more detail that on Wednesday, day after tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll have a water talk with Nancy Sylvester. And Nancy Sylvester, who many of you know is a Sister of the Immaculate Heart of Mary from Detroit, and she's the founder of the Institute for Communal Contemplation and Dialogue, and she's the author of a brand new book called Journey Faith in an Entangled World. Journey-Faith in an Entangled World. And the book just came out this week. We will celebrate the book and we'll hear from Nancy about contemplative practices like this one. This particular way of getting together and meditating is based shamelessly on Nancy's engaging impasse process that she did some years ago that some of you may have participated in. I did, and it was wonderful. And we've been doing it at Water ever since. And the book is great. I blurbed it myself and put a little blurb out there for her. And Nancy is great. So it'll be, I think, a very lovely session. And I invite you to come and to meet her and to celebrate with us this accomplishment, which is a very useful handbook. It's literally a handbook, a hands-on book, where there are sections where you can do your own meditation and so forth. And she'll explain the whole thing, but I really urge you to join us for that on Wednesday at 1 o'clock if you can. If you can't, you might want to register anyway to be sure that you get the video. On Tuesday, October the 29th, that's almost the end of the month, Diane New and the Water community will have a liturgy called Getting Ready for Election Results, activating spiritual practices and supporting one another in an historic moment. And I think that's a really good kind of prophylactic just to get us ready for whatever may come. And then a month from today, on November 4th, on Monday at 7:30 in the regular meditation, that'll be the liturgy, but the regular meditation period on November the 4th, we will have with us our Canadian colleague, Rosemary Ganley, offering a meditative reflection on the day before the U.S. elections. RBG, as we call Rosemary Ganley, who's an 87-year-old wonder, is currently in Rome engaging in conversations and demonstrations adjacent to the Synod. She's with the Women's Ordination Conference group and others. And so we look forward to having her ideas and her energy. And she's a very, very wise woman. And she volunteered for this. And I thought, boy, nobody better than a Canadian on the night before the American elections. So November 4th. So please feel free to join us for these gatherings. All of the programs at Water are free and open to everyone. We welcome donations, of course, but we try to socialize. Our work is to socialize the resources so that the great abundance that exists in feminist theology, ethics, and ritual can be made available to everyone. What we have found over time, and I've said it many times, is that if we share among us, there's enough. If we share among us, there's enough. And we're so grateful to the many friends who are able to and do donate. And we're just as grateful to the many friends who do not donate because they can't or don't want to or have other priorities but want to be with us. We make no discrimination. So please, you're welcome to every Water program. Everyone is welcome, and your support is welcome but not necessary, because if we share among us, there's enough. And for 40 years, that's been the case. And I am pretty convicted of the fact that it will be the case going forward. So let me thank Jeanne one more time. Brooke, thank you for your work on the IT for this. And thanks to all of you for being here. I wish you safe days ahead and a lovely evening, or in Coralie's case, a lovely day ahead. So with that, we'll close our official session. And the floor is open for anyone who'd like to make a comment or greet a friend or whatever you'd like to do.